Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Matt McTighe, campaign manager for Yes on One.
I got to get all the Mainers United staff around here. Anybody who can make your way up to the front, get up here if you can. Everybody who was part of this team over the last 2.5 years. It has been a long time in coming. That just makes what I'm about to say all the more sweet. Tonight, because of the work of everyone in this room and so many staff and volunteers and supporters all over the country, we have finally won the freedom to marry for all families in Maine. Three years ago, Maine made history by being the first state in the country to pass marriage through a legislature and have it signed into law by the governor. Now, we made history again earlier this year by being the first state to ever bring a proactive citizens initiative directly to the voters. And tonight, we made history a third time. For the first time, we've won marriage right here in Maine. We've done it at the ballot box, and I could not be prouder that it happened right here in my home state. Tonight, we took away the final talking point opponents of marriage have used to undercut our progress and diminish our relationships for years. Opponents of marriage came into the state using the same recycled scare tactics and misleading ads they've used before, time and time again, including here in 2009. They made false claims about the consequences for children and churches, and somehow suggested that same-sex couples, allowing marriage for same-sex couples, was going to weaken the institution of marriage. But Maine voters have heard those lies before. And tonight, supporters from Portland to Presque Isle send a clear message that truth and love are more powerful than fear and deception. People have taken time to reflect about what marriage means to them and what it means to the tens of thousands of gay and lesbian couples, friends, family, neighbors already living here in Maine beside us all. But that's not what all this victory means. This morning, I received a good luck email from a high school student in Vermont, the son of a friend who had heard what we were poised to do in Maine here today. I think he wrote, when I was in 5th grade, Vermont's state legislature legalized same-sex marriage in our state. I was at the very beginning of coming to terms with my sexuality. I felt like a freak and I was afraid of the future. But the idea that someday I could be able to have the same sort of relationship that I see my parents, my teachers, and virtually all of my adult role models enjoying like normal people gave me something positive to think about. And I remember firsthand what that isolation and fear can feel like. So I say to anyone out there in Maine or anywhere else around the country who shares that sense that you don't belong because of the way you were born, let this historic moment serve as proof that your future can be everything that you want it to be. Tonight's victory belongs to tens of thousands of Mainers, marriage supporters in Maine and across the country who have worked tirelessly to make it possible for all loving, committed couples in Maine to obtain a marriage license. The cornerstone of that work has been the more than 250,000 one-on-one conversations our amazing staff and volunteers have had with their friends and their neighbors and their coworkers about why marriage matters to all families. We talked and we listened, and even though we didn't always agree with every single person we spoke to, we kept the tone of our campaign positive and respectful and honest, choosing to focus on the real-world examples of how all families are made stronger when every couple has the freedom to marry. Now, there are countless individuals and organizations that made tonight's victory possible, and I wish I could bring them all up on stage right now with me and name them all and give a list. A lot of their names, the organizations, have been up on the screens all night long, and I hope you took notice. But I do need to mention a couple people by names before we start celebrating. There are a couple people without whom this campaign would never have been possible, and I have got to start with the unbelievable staff, my team at Mainers United for Marriage, who have been working alongside me. My field director, Amy Mello. Our COO, Ariel Kernis. Our compliance director, Anya Trundy. Our coalition manager, Ali Vanderzanded. David Farmer, our communications director. Ian Grady, our new media director. Miguel Rodriguez, our finance director, and the man who put tonight's event together. Ryan Brown, our field organizers. Our regional field coordinators all over the state who can't even, not all of them could be here tonight, but we are thinking about you. The amazing canvassers and phoners and phone bankers who talked to so many people, trained so many more, and just set this in motion. Our consultants, Amy Simon, where's Amy? Amy Simon. Our research consultant who helped us develop some of the best messages, the most powerful ads, the best research that we've been able to use to tell our stories to a wider audience. Our incredible media team at CD Squared who made those amazing TV ads that you remember seeing. Our mail consultant, Amy Pritchard and Mission Control. Phyllis Watts, our research consultant. Our in-house tech guru, Mike Labriola, who made so much of our tracking possible. Michael and Robin Gray and all the original signers who brought the Citizens Initiative forward to begin with. And all the people who appeared in our ads, like Michael and Robin Gray. All of them. Harlan, the Gardner family up in Machias, Phil and Kathy, the Brewsters, everybody, every one of you. And especially, I got to give a personal shout out to my brother firefighters down in York, some of whom are here. I don't know if they're still here right now. I don't know if they're still in the room. They were here all night. I hope you recognized them and said hi. The more than 200 coalition partners and faith denominations whose names and logos you've seen on those screens all night long, our incredible executive committee, the ACLU of Maine, Equality Maine, Gay and Lesbian Advocates and Defenders, Maine Women's Lobby, Engage Maine, Pat Peer, Jesse Connolly, who started this campaign. Jesse Connolly, who began this effort. Because this isn't just the fight for the last 2.5 years. This started back in 2009. Kim Lane, our national partners, Freedom to Marry, incredible, one of our biggest supporters, the best partners we could ask for on the executive committee level, the Human Rights Campaign, who did so much, were so supportive and so generous and made so much of our work possible. Our friends at the Gay and Lesbian Task Force, some of whom are in the room right now, who are some of the most amazing, energetic, brilliant organizers and brought so much enthusiasm to this campaign. Our volunteers, our amazing volunteers, and raise your hand if you've ever volunteered for this campaign. give a special shout out. There's so many volunteers, I couldn't even try to name them by name, but I do have to give a special shout out to Sarah Dowling, who is unbelievable, who did so much, who did every day. I thought she was just part of the staff. She was in the office so much. She was always willing to do everything and anything. There are so many like her that did so much. Jesse Graham, Amy Halstead, Jill Barkley, Adria Janig, Nicola Wells and the League of Young Voters, Congresswoman Shelley Pingree and Donald Sussman, who are in the room tonight with us. And congratulations to Shelley, whose generous support made so much of this work possible and helped us kick off this campaign almost 3 years ago. Our other elected official friends, some of whom are in the room, Governor Baldacci was here. He was the one that started to set this in motion by signing the first bill into law. All of the legislators from 2009 who voted for equality. Congressman Mike Michaud, and while I'm at it, his Chief of Staff, Peter Chandler, if he's in the room. Our new Senate-elect, Angus King, and so many of the pro-equality candidates who will be taking office and were out there campaigning, saying that they were unabashedly, proudly pro-marriage. And I also got to stop and just take a moment to thank the voters of Maine, who at long last, they thought about this issue, they kept an open mind, they let us come talk to them. We didn't always agree, but they were willing to listen. And they put family ahead of politics by voting yes on one tonight. Now there's a change that's happening in this country, and today we saw that change reflected here in Maine. And we're keeping our fingers crossed that the other 3 states that have marriage on the ballot this year are going to join us in this milestone tonight. We're hearing some good things too. But regardless of what happens anywhere else, the voters of Maine have spoken. Every day, more people are coming to realize that allowing loving, committed couples to marry strengthens our families and our communities. And it takes time for that change to occur. But whether it takes a decade or the course of a single conversation, we know that change only moves in one direction. By next year, even more Mainers will support the freedom to marry, because we're going to keep having these conversations. And within a few weeks, in less than 2 months, and before everybody asks, it's sort of a floating deadline. We don't know the exact date. There's a lot of moving parts about certification. But in less than 2 months, same-sex couples in Maine will start to get married. They will be able to stand before their friends and family and make that lifetime commitment that so many of us grew up dreaming about. And when they do, their friends and their family and their neighbors and even some of our opponents will see that the sky didn't fall. Their fears were unfounded. The institution of marriage is too strong. Now, the only thing that will change is that loving, committed couples and their families across the state will be happier, more stable, and more secure because of what we did today here in Maine. Now, we don't know what, if any,